Transgender rights are human rights. You know, everyone was created equally, but not all people are treated equally, and that's a problem. Transgender rights are human rights. There's a quote that I really like. This is from Human Rights Watch. They say that sexual orientation and gender identity are integral aspects of ourselves and should never lead to discrimination or abuse. Once again, transgender rights are human rights. You know, 8% of all of us Americans personally know someone who is transgender. This is according to a poll by GLAAD and Harris Interactive. And according to the humanrightscampaign.org website, they defined the word transgender or trans as an umbrella term for people whose gender identity is different from the sex assigned at birth. Now, talking about transgender health and transgender rights is very important. It's very important to us all. It's very important to me as a person, as a physician, as someone with transgender people in my life. It is important. It's important to us all. What I wanted to do was to read some statistics that you may or may not be familiar with, some of which I think are quite startling. This is according to transequality.org. More than 1 in 4 trans people has faced a bias-driven assault, and rates are higher for trans women and trans people of color. By the way, I'm going to talk more about trans women and trans people of color because rates for violence are much higher in these groups. More than 1 in 4 transgender people have lost a job due to bias, and more than 3/4 have experienced some form of workplace discrimination. Refusal to hire, privacy violations, harassment, even physical and sexual violence on the job are common occurrences and are experienced at even higher rates by transgender people of color. Another statistic, 1 in 5 transgender people in the United States have been discriminated against when seeking a home, and more than 1 in 10 have been evicted from their homes because of their gender identity. Homelessness. Now, that's not spared here. Homelessness is also a critical issue for transgender people. 1 in 5 transgender individuals have experienced homelessness at some point in their lives. And we can't forget family rejection and discrimination from loved ones. Family rejection and discrimination and violence have contributed to a large number of transgender and other LGBTQ identified youth who are homeless in the United States. You know, guys, these statistics are honestly just a few. I'm going to read more because I think it's really important that we face the facts, as startling, as devastating, as unfair, as tragic as they are. And this is the reality of many of our transgender friends. Trans people experience violence at rates far greater than the average person. Over a majority, 54% of trans people have experienced some form of intimate partner violence. 47% have been sexually assaulted in their lifetime. This is one that gets to me. More than 1/4, 29% of trans adults have been refused health care by a doctor or provider because of their gender identity. I mean, this is not okay. And there's more. Transequality.org says that trans people are 4 times more likely to live in poverty. Trans people experience unemployment at twice the rate of the general population, with rates for people of color up to 4 times the national unemployment rate. They also say that 90% of trans people report experiencing harassment, mistreatment, and discrimination on the job. We've talked about that. And 53% of transgender people report being harassed and disrespected in a place of public accommodation, for example, bathrooms. But let's talk a little bit about trans people of color and Black trans women. What I'm going to read next is a statement that was made by the Deputy Executive Director for the National Center for Transgender Equality. They say, transgender people, and particularly Black and Latina transgender women, are marginalized, stigmatized, and criminalized in our country. They face violence every single day, and they fear turning to the police for help. It's a sobering fact, but Black trans women experience disproportionately high levels of daily violence. This is according to the National Coalition of Anti-Violence Programs. Their report says that in 2013, 72% of LGBT homicide victims were transgender women. In 2012, 53% of LGBT homicide victims were transgender women, and the majority were transgender women of color. Finally, a June 2020 report from Everytown for Gun Safety Support Fund in Equality, Florida, found that in 2018, there was a 41% increase in reported crimes directed against transgender individuals. While just 16% of the trans population in the U.S. is estimated to be Black, 79% of known trans homicide victims were Black, the report showed. While just 16% of the trans population in the US is estimated to be Black, 79% of known trans homicide victims were Black, the report showed. Guys, there are plenty of other statistics. I could go on and on and on. These are just a few. And I mentioned the sources for those statistics as well, so that you can go and take a look at these websites and learn more and understand the gravity of this issue and this problem. Remember, transgender rights are human rights, and everyone is created equally. It's just that everyone is not treated equally, and that's the problem. This is not meant to be a fully encompassing description of sort of the health, societal, social, issues that transgender people face. It can't be. This is just the tip of the iceberg. It's to let you know why this issue is so important and why we stand with our friends and our loved ones and our colleagues who are transgender. Guys, this information is really important to share. It's really important to understand and to remember always to treat everyone with love and kindness. Guys, transgender rights are human rights. Guys, I'm Dr. Jen Caudle. I'm a practicing family physician and an on-air health expert. I'm also a video creator. I do videos on all sorts of topics, health topics, COVID topics, you name it. Remember, we must love one another. And love is love is love is love. Guys, I'll see you soon.